On this episode of the Mad Rush podcast.
There are a lot of people talking about how to get your teens into college, how to, do well on the SATs, maybe just like practical things, and a lot surrounding practical stuff. But there wasn't anybody talking about the emotional roller coaster of being a parent to older kids and the grief that comes alongside, coupled with the joy. Like those things sitting side by side all the time, where you're like holding on with an open hand, where you have a million emotions that are swirling around in your head, especially maybe senior year or after you've dropped them off at college.
Welcome to the Mad Rush podcast. I'm Trisha Addicks, the original sorority rush consultant. While the stories I have to share are nothing short of astonishing, this podcast goes beyond the wild client tales and sorority life. I'll be engaging with fascinating guests from both within and outside the Greek world, uncovering the surprising connections that bind us all together. Join me for a journey that's as entertaining as it is enlightening. Welcome to Mad Rush. All right, so I was scrolling through Instagram a while ago, and I was so drawn to the words on today's guest page. Esther Goetz is an author, spiritual director. I can't wait to hear all about this. Mom to 4 grown kids, and is especially passionate about helping moms in the messy transition time of launching adults and tending to their souls in the middle of it all. She is a light in this world. I'm honored she is taking the time to be here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's so exciting to be with you.
Yes. So I read something on your website. So first of all, I'm just warning y'all listening. I'm already tearing up. Like, this is just like speaks to me so much. This, and I was telling Esther before we got on here, my aunt, who is one of my favorite humans on the planet, she said, I did not think you were going to be okay after your kids left home and went to college. And so I am okay, but I know what she meant. And this thing I read on I think it was your website, that giving your kids the roots of love and the wings of freedom to be completely themselves. And that is something that I found really hard to do. And anyway, I am just so excited to get I don't even know what you call it, wisdom, whatever. I'm just grateful that you're going to be sharing this, your light with us today. So
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Usually the podcaster asks the question, but I will ask.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You probably didn't have a hard time giving them the roots of unconditional love. Perhaps you had the hard time of giving them the wings of freedom, right?
Yes. That's what yes. I'm sorry if that was not clear. No.
Usually that's the part that I spend a lot of time with people in.
So tell me, yes. And that is what, and it's still something. I think I was on your Instagram maybe yesterday or today, and it's still something that I have this like current that goes through me of worry, and it hasn't gone away. And I have your books. You have 2 books, right? Or 3 books and 1 on the way?
3 books and 1 on the way, and 1 in the future.
Oh, that's awesome.
A little bit more distant future. Yeah.
But so, okay. Talk to us about you and your background and what led you to this amazing platform that you have. So,
well, my name's Esther Goetz. Like you said, I have 4, I call them grownish and flownish kids, because a lot of days I hear from them, or they're visiting, or I'm visiting, or you know how it goes. Everybody probably who's listening to this who has grownish kids, we call them baby adults. Some of mine are now toddler adults. Very exciting. They have moved into toddlerhood, and some even in elementary school, I say, as adults. I'm probably only in like middle school myself as an adult.
Yeah. I was going to
But
say, I don't even think I've gotten
maybe I'm like
out.
a teenager because I've kind of gotten a little angsty recently.
Yes.
Maybe that midlife thing comes and you're like a teenager adult. But yeah, I do have that passion. And that is my tagline of giving our kids the roots of unconditional love and the wings of freedom to be completely themselves. I am a spiritual director. We don't like that term in that world. We like to say soul companion because that we're like almost like moms. I'm like almost like moms to other people, like giving them the roots of unconditional love and the wings of freedom to be their complete selves. And I have a real passion and heart for moms, especially in the space of, like you said, transitioning in those later years, like the teen, but right around those like leaving years and then the launching time, which does take a long time. And I think the reason I got into it, well, first, my oldest was like, you gotta like do something, mom, because like you have all of these mantras that you've said to us and you need to just like put them in a book or do something. And then when I was going through, that was like right around the time I started that transition time, there was no one talking about it. I would say this, there are a lot of people talking about how to get your teens into college, how to, do well on the SATs, maybe just like practical things and a lot surrounding practical stuff. But there wasn't anybody talking about the emotional roller coaster of being a parent to older kids and the grief that comes alongside, coupled with the joy, like those things sitting side by side all the time, where you're like holding on with an open hand, where you have a million emotions that are swirling around in your head, especially maybe senior year or after you've dropped them off at college or when they move out of your house for good and you're in your U-Haul driving them to their apartment, or the day they get married, or whatever it is. All of those, I call them goodbyes, that do lead to hellos. There are hellos that are associated with that, but people want to skip right to the hello and not deal with that really human part of being a mom. And so everyone kind of goes underground and doesn't talk about it, or it feels really like stuck, or it's just about, what are you going to do now that you're an empty nester? Are you going to find yourself again? Which I think is really valuable, because I think we do lose ourselves many, many ways, or we go underground. But I want to talk about that messy middle,
Right.
staying in that transition place. Like, ooh, what's going on here in the transition?
Wow. So, okay. So yeah, talk about it. I want to know. I want to know. I feel like this podcast is just for me, but I do know that I have so many friends who are in this like transition, and you are feeling a little bit lost, and it's like you said, there's a grief, and all of it's so. What do we do? Help us,
Yeah.
Esther, help us.
I would say one of my most frustrating things that ever happens on social media, or even in my newsletter that I send out every week, not so much in my newsletter, because that's more people who are really wanting to dive deeper on this. But especially on social media, because social media is social media, right?
Right.
We love and hate it. It connects us with people, and it also drives us crazy. But I get very frustrated if I'm talking about the grief of this or saying something sad, and people will make a comment like, you should just be so happy that
Yes.
your kids are X, Y, and Z, or
Yes.
you don't have it as bad as me. My kid moved to Australia, whatever.
Right.
And so there's
I'm
that.
so glad. I didn't mean to interrupt you, or I did, but I'm so glad that you're talking about that, because that is so. It's levels of, I talk about this with my business, or why I started my business. It was because I had the trauma of being rejected as an 18-year-old. And yeah, not getting into a sorority was traumatic, but like I get that too. People are like, well, that's not really a trauma. And I'm like, to me, it was, like to
Mm.
me, this is what I experienced. So
Mm.
that different like levels, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but yeah, I mean, I could be happy that whatever. But I hear what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I do think that comparison, that level of it's worse for me. And I do think about friends who've had lost children or whatever who have I'm not compare all I'm trying to say is I'm not comparing it. It's still worth talking about regardless of what it is. So I just
Yeah, I
interrupted you.
would just say too, that's just different kinds of grief. My best friend in high school lost both of her girls in a car accident and with a drunk driver. And do I understand her grief? It's a very, very specific and different kind of grief than I have. But Brené Brown talks about this all the time. We don't have comparative suffering. It's just
Right.
different kinds, and there's no like mine is worse for than yours or yours. And the beautiful thing about my friend is she can still hold space, which I am amazed by her for the grief that I'm going through of my kid moving to California. Like
Right. That's
she just is like it's different, and there's different room and different space and different needs when it comes to these kinds of grief, but we don't want to be dismissive of people. Like
no.
that just feels like you're getting shut down. And I joke because you know that Dr. Seuss quote that everybody writes in their yearbook, like, don't cry because it's over, smile because it's happened. And, whatever. Dr. Seuss got in a little trouble a couple of years ago. He's kind of back in good graces now. I hate that quote. I love be you, you are than you and all that. But that one I just am like, no, you can cry because it's over and you can smile because it's happened. It's a both and. It's
Oh,
that
I
tug
love
of
that.
war
Yeah.
of the both and not the let's just be dismissive. You shouldn't cry. It's like, wait a second, I am crying.
Right.
so,
So
so what am I supposed to do with that? And you telling me I shouldn't cry isn't going to make me get in the shower one day because I just dropped my kid at college and I went back to my hotel and I'm in the shower and I'm sobbing my eyes out. What? I just berate myself into not crying? Like,
right. Right.
so yeah. And that it doesn't work. And I think that's like that holding the tension of the myriad of emotions that we have as moms, especially during this launching time. And it starts, you feel like a little bit of grief when your kid gets on the kindergarten bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have that twinge, you just have all these twinges. And then it's okay to have the twinges. It really means that you love. Like grief is the price of love. That is just true. So
Right.
what am I not supposed to be sad that I'm missing my kids? What does that say? Like a
Right.
sociopath. I'm kidding.
I know you are, but that's
Yeah.
yeah.
So I would say like the first piece, I don't even like to call it advice. I'm just a fellow sojourner, you know, got a text from my big kid at 4 a.m. last week about something really, thank God I woke up to it and didn't see it at 4 a.m. That was after my midnight, middle of the night wake up. I was back to sleep at that point, and he just said like really going through a hard time, and didn't get to talk to him because I was like, well, he's up at 4. He's not getting up till noon. It's Saturday, and I just had to sit with that. Like, yikes!
Mm,
Like this is
yeah.
a kid having a really hard time, and I can't fix it. And that I feel like I feel that because I have felt that since they were little. It doesn't just change. It is his hard
Right.
time, but I feel that inside of me. I don't want him to be having a hard time, you know?
Right. Right.
I'm sorry. So back to that. Back to the first piece. Back to the
So
first
what
piece.
time, I'm just curious, what time did you get to talk to him? Because me,
2.
I would have been paralyzed from when I woke up till when, I'm not saying you should have, but me personally, the way I operate
Mhm.
is I cannot, pretty much can't function
Right.
until I talk to whomever, my kid.
I will say that with all of this, I mean, so much of it is so much inner work that we have to do to regulate ourselves, right? That's why I'm a spiritual director. All the inner work I said to my husband, wow, look at me. I actually had to do work that morning. And I was like, I am not paralyzed. And
Really?
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that I wasn't paralyzed. I thought about it quite a bit. I was laughing at myself because I sent him a text about every hour, just like saying a little bit more about what I said and then saying, hey, we're here for you. And then another hour go by. And then I finally just said, at 2, I said, could you just like this? Could you just heart this? We
Right.
don't have to talk. We don't just heart this. And then he hearted it right away. And then he called about an hour later. And, but I was surprised because I know that panic and I know that fear. And I would say it's just a lot of, like I said, my own anxieties, working on my own self to regulate my
Yes.
own stuff. And I will say, back to like that first thing, is allowing myself all of the emotions at the same time and saying, I walked out to my husband, my partner, and said to him, wow, look at this text. And I wonder what's going on. And then just sort of I was glad I had time to process it before I panic, before I like
Right.
added to his stuff, if that makes sense. Like I was like, this is,
Wait, what do you mean?
well, he's already going through a hard time. And I don't want to make it about me, like him having
Okay.
to regulate my emotions. Like I think that's a really tricky tightrope we walk of like, I'm only okay if you're okay. And I have to say those words to myself all the time. I am going to be okay, even if you're not okay today, like, or tomorrow, because we don't have any guarantees. That's why it's like, oh, well, they're going to be okay. Maybe they're not. That is a very hard thing to
It
hear.
makes me feel, yeah, it makes me
Feel
feel a little sick to
anxious.
my stomach. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I would say just having to do our own work. And and I think that same mantra I have for my kids, where it's like, I've got to give myself the roots of unconditional love. And some of that is self-care. And I'm not talking about like commercialized self-care. I'm talking about real soul care, like addressing my emotions, addressing my grief, addressing my joy, not making, as Mary Oliver, the poet says, not allowing joy to be a crumb, being fully present to whatever is actually going on. I was afraid and sad on Saturday morning. I was afraid and sad. And I had to acknowledge that, sit with that, process that, so that I could be fully present for when he called me and that I wasn't just spinning around in my
You
head.
weren't, yeah,
I
that makes
wasn't
sense. You
just
weren't,
like, you have to regulate me. And so then we talked about a bunch of his options and we talked about, he said he didn't want to talk about it. And then when I was like, yeah, no, then all of a sudden it all came spilling out. And over a course of time, and then he said, oh, this is why I called you, Mom, because I just he felt paralyzed in his life.
right.
And he didn't need me to be paralyzed, but
Right.
that's on me. It's not an easy path. And I'm not saying that next week when my daughter calls me about something, I won't be paralyzed. So
Right.
it's not like, oh, I have the magic formula. I wasn't paralyzed. I just was like, wow,
Yeah.
wow, I'm shocked. I actually did work today and ate breakfast. So I was like,
So,
wow.
so like, how do you begin to do that inner work? And how do you, because I think so many people, me included, again, I feel like this is just for me and it's my podcast, so I can do that. I'm just kidding. But I feel like that is a hard path. I mean, if you don't, so do we?
Yeah, a lot of people will go through therapy. I mean, therapy is great if you have, especially if you have certain traumas or certain mental illness. I think that that's great. But I would say one of the biggest things, I mean, the Inside Out movies were like fantastic for this. Really, I say don't rush to joy. Like, don't rush to that place. You have to really learn to be present with uncomfortable feelings. And having children makes you very uncomfortable. It is the most uncomfortable, risky thing you could ever do, because not only do the hormones course through your body where you feel highly responsible for this, even in pregnancy, it's just sort of your job. And you have this attachment to them that is appropriate, physical, emotional, necessary. So not diminishing any of that, but then being like, oh, acknowledging all of that stuff. Yes, this is all very true. And I don't know why, and this is going to sound so sexist, but I don't care. My husband does not necessarily have this same thing. And
It
whatever.
doesn't sound sexist. And when you said you walked out to him and with the phone, that is my life. And my husband is thank God. I mean, thank God I have my husband, because he knows how to help me not be paralyzed.
Right.
He does have that. He gives that, but he does not feel it in the same way that I do.
No,
for sure.
And that probably is like physical. I mean, maybe that's something that courses through us, like something I would say like evolutionary.
Right.
Like we are designed to do this. And I guess I just think it's okay to say, oh my gosh, I don't just always have to feel happy all the time. Even before this taping, a friend of mine called me and she said, I'm really learning that every day most days are just like normal. You don't have crises. We say you don't have crises or cruises. It's not like a vacation. Like we talk about cruises being vacations. It's not like the best day ever or the worst day ever. And that is most of parenting and most of the transition. But boy, there are really difficult days or seasons or times, and really good celebratory times. And guess what? In motherhood, those collide all the time. Graduation, walking across the graduation stage. You're supposed to be at this party. We're celebrating. Everyone's sending gifts. And it's like, oh my, I'm dying. I'm dying. And so a lot of times the celebration and grief, even a funeral, you're celebrating somebody's life. And it's like, oh, but I'm going to miss them. It's a loss. It's like, okay, there's something else, but there's a loss. So the constant colliding is what gets us as moms. I think the constant colliding and then the dismissing of uncomfortable emotions, like put a smile on, make sure you smile for the camera, make sure you do this. I mean, our kids, I think a lot of kids go to freshman year of college. They've lost everything. Mm-hmm. They have lost the sport, the dance group, the team, their friends, their town, their family, and they're just supposed to go to college and be fine. And some they're waiting to get out of there, whatever, but and more we're finding like kids coming home, or, oh my gosh, kids not necessarily going that far. And because you just have everything ripped away from you, but you're supposed to be, because you magically turned 18, fine. Or you magically walked across a stage completely fine with all of the loss. Wow. And I think that happens to us, especially as moms. Like we have those same emotions that transition summer, or whenever those transitions are. Somebody just DM'd me and said, oh my gosh, in January, my junior said, I'm going to take classes. I'm going to graduate. And for some reason, he could graduate in the spring. So she got like half a junior year, half a senior year. And she was like, what? I'm like, I don't even get the regular, like her kid just made a weird decision. And she was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's such a tricky thing to navigate, like caring for your own soul in the middle of the transition times, not putting it on your kid because they're having their own stuff.
Right. And that's that I just wrote that down. How do we not add to, like, I think for me, I hear what you're saying but I think I put it on my kids. So, I think I did. I don't know if
you're learning.
Whatever. We're all learning. But so how do we not? Because I think I never looked at it like that they're experiencing this loss. Because you're right. people think, oh my gosh, the world's your oyster. You're going and you're doing all this stuff. And this is just, and I've never thought about it like that. Like that it's a loss for them too. I mean, obviously I know people struggle and, that's why I do what I do, because I want people to find their people in college and all that. But I don't think I've ever really recognized all the things they're losing.
Well, why do
And
you think sororities and what you do is so valuable? And why do you think you had such a trauma related to that? You had left everything, and
right,
then you're just like, I need to belong. I've got to
right,
belong somewhere. And
right,
so a sorority and a fraternity almost provides immediate belonging. You're in the in
right,
group. You have sisters, you have brothers.
right,
I just think about what you're doing. You're providing a space of belonging. That's what those places, clubs, teams, all those things do in college, or in the workforce once they like leave college. Then you have that other transition where they have a major loss leaving college. There's all kinds of losses in our lives, and I just think that acknowledging the loss is the biggest first step.
ah,
And I think we tend to, because of good reasons, our kids are older. We don't, it's their story now. We don't want to get it intermingled. We don't want to like tell their story. So we're not like, we don't have little kids like anymore that we can talk about them. We don't want to talk about them, our teenagers and our at the bus stop, like, because who knows, their name could be in the paper,
right,
because they got in a car accident. So we all go underground, and all those connections we had are gone. So then we're just like these moms that are like, wait, am I the only one in the world who's really sad that my kids are leaving?
right,
Like, am I the only mom in the world who cried at the fact that I drove home after I dropped their stuff off in their apartment, or the in out of the college years, which is exhausting emotionally? They're
gosh,
in, they're
yes.
out, they're in, they're out, they're in. I mean, talk about the push pull of a mom's
Mm-hmm.
heart. Are you here? No, I'm going away on spring break. Are you coming home for Thanksgiving? No, I'm going to my
Mm.
girlfriend's. What are you doing for the summer? I decided to like, I'm going, overseas. I was just like, what are you doing, dude?
I had that exact conversation with someone who's she has twins and they're in they're freshmen in college, and she's like, wait, when they went back after spring break, that was like harder than when I dropped, when I dropped them off. She's like, what is happening? And I remember that feeling. I remember that particular feeling, like you have them back and, your kids are in the nest, and then the next week they're somewhere. And I remember that
Right.
so yeah, that in and out is a
The in
great way
out,
to put that.
the in
It's
out
like,
years. And that's what the good news is our bodies and our emotions. They tell us, whether we like it or not, that we are in this transition, messy middle that we need to address and not just gloss over. And not, I mean, a lot of stuff happens in this transition time for us as well. Like you said, hey, like I started this podcast, or we do things. I became a spiritual
right,
director. I have this page because I didn't want to I have this, kind of entire company I've built called Moms of Bigs, because of this very need that we all have. Like, we don't want to feel alone the same way as you felt on the outside with the sorority. It always feels like, oh my gosh, am I sitting at this lunch table with everybody else? Or is
right,
everyone else fine? And I'm like over here and I'm the weird one
right,
because I'm not sitting at that lunch table, and wow, they all look like they're great. They're doing this, they're doing that, they're flitting here, they're flitting there, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm crying in my
right,
shower. But
right.
but what's been very telling to me, what has been massively telling to me, is the amount of messages I get. Like,
Yes.
thank you, because now I know I'm not the only crazy one, and I'm not the only one really struggling with this.
Right. And you put it so eloquently, it's not the right word, but you're able to voice it. You're able to voice what we're feeling in a way that's one of the reasons I think you resonate with so many people and you have so many followers and you have all the things, but it's because you are addressing it in a way that resonates with so many of us.
Mhm.
And you are addressing it and like giving us hope. One thing that stuck out to me when you were talking is my first thought was, how do I not put this on my kids? And I've done that. But so that's like pushing those emotions down again. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and there is such a difference between, and I talk about this with my kids all the time. I think I think that this exact thing is, we had guilt manipulation stuff used on us. It doesn't work. You don't want to be with people who make you feel guilty, right? You don't want people you want freedom, right? That's the wings of freedom part. And I say we have to move from a posture of demanding to inviting, and then dealing with our own stuff. Again, it's all dealing with our own stuff. But I'll give you just a little story. Is that okay if I share a story?
Oh my gosh. I was like hanging on my Is that okay? Yes. You can do anything you want, Esther.
Oh, you're so cute. I would say this, the first twinge I had was my son was in high school. He was dating an Italian girl. I live in New Jersey. We're very Italian here. And he was dating her, and she had something called like 7 fishes dinner on Christmas Eve. It was like the holiday time. And he was very intrigued by like this 7 fishes. Plus it was his girlfriend. He like was a high school boy and he wanted to be with his girlfriend. And so they invited him over for Christmas Eve. Oh my gosh. I thought I was going to die, because we had our own family tradition on Christmas Eve. We always went to Chinese food at the same Chinese food restaurant, and it was just our family. And we did this thing, like this was our thing. We went to a movie and went to Chinese food and after church, all that stuff. We did all of this kind of tradition. And it was the first time I was like, well, that wings of freedom. Like, what would I want? What do I want for him to, what kind of relationship do I want with this kid? Do I want him to have the kind of relationship I've had with people, where it's based on have tos and guilt and manipulation? Or do I want a relationship where he has the freedom to be with me or not with me? I always joke, I don't want to, it's a joke, but it's not. It's one of my sayings. I don't want to be the mom my kids love. I want to be the mom my kids love being around.
Right.
Which is that person who just gives you freedom to be yourself and come and go. And you're very welcoming and you're safe, but you're not demanding and like, you have to. It's like, oh, so I said to him, wow, like, I just want you to know this is hard for me. This is why we don't have to not say it.
Yeah,
we said, this is really hard for me, but you are not responsible for my emotions. I'm responsible for them. I mean, there's way cooler ways to say it to your high school, like, or to your college student. This is the adult grown-up version of it is, hey, have a really good time. Yeah, I'm really going to miss you. But I've got myself, like I'm going to work through that. Like, that's on me.
That's cool.
I remember even like the whole curfew thing, like when they were in senior year, and I said to them, I am petrified. I owned my emotion. Right. And I said, I'm probably going to be petrified when you're in college, but I will have zero control.
Right.
And there's nothing I can really do about that. But senior year, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still petrified. So you're going to have a curfew of midnight, and I'm going to get sleep that way. And I'm going to learn whether or not this is healthy or not healthy. And we're going to, revisit this. And interestingly enough, my oldest 2 had a curfew and my youngest one didn't, but I had done like a lot of that work.
I bet they were like, what the hell, Mom?
Right. But I was like, it's okay to say, I'm really sad. It's really okay to say, I'm really afraid. What's not okay is you have to change your behavior to fix my sadness or my fear.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's
right. That's the wings of freedom.
Profound.
That is very, very hard, because guess what? I'm sad and I'm petrified.
Right.
And those are mine to own. That is and here's another little story. My son,
You can tell another story.
my son after college, this is all about the girlfriend, same son. He's so cute. He's the kid who wrapped his arms and legs around my leg going to nursery school and wouldn't leave. But now,
Oh.
he lives in Miami and he has very much wings of freedom and he's fine. But he said to me, it was like, again, like around a holiday, and said, yeah, I'm going to go to my girlfriend's parents. I'm not coming home this year. And I just had to like pause, not say anything. And I said, okay, thank you for telling me. And then I was like, I got to get off the phone. Like I got off the phone and then I had to process all of this stuff and come up with a way that he would know. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I will really miss you so much. It won't be the same without you. But then say, not in a guilty way. You need to do whatever you want. You're a young adult. You do whatever you want. And I'll just really miss you. But you're not responsible for me. There's this. And then the next year he came home. I mean, he did it all of his own accord. And then he just convinced her to come to our house. And he was like, I'm not missing my family again.
Right.
And I was like, oh, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I got to go to my parents.
Right.
I got to go. My mom's going to be really mad at me. Oh my, like all of that. You can have that kind of relationship with your kid. It's not going to be a healthy one, which is my goal. My goal is that you would have a really healthy relationship with yourself and your child.
So when you are, and I do that, our older son is married and I love her and I love her family and all of the things, but when the traditions change and stuff, that's hard on, I think, all of us, just because this is what has happened. I mean, I'm so glad that it's all the things, but changing traditions is hard. And I think that that's amazing that you acknowledge it, but then give them the freedom. Because I also feel the same way that, I don't want them to, I feel that I'm an obligation. I don't want to be an obligation. And I'm not with my kids, but I think that acknowledging that is important because I don't want them to feel like they have to be here. I hope that they want to be, and with her family too, So anyway.
It's so good. It's just very good to talk about it out loud, I think. And that's what's missing. And you say, that's the piece I bring to the table is let's get this out and stop pretending it's not there.
Right.
And we are breaking generational cycles because guilt and fear and obligation were the name of the game for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work with our kids who've grown up in this generation. I mean, it works in the short term, but it makes a relationship so icky. I want my kids to be with me because they want to be with me. I want to be with people because I want to be with them. Right. I avoid a lot of people because I feel like I have to, because they make me feel like I have to be in, like, I don't know. And then I'm like, you got to take care of your own needs.
Right.
And so, and it is, my mother-in-law was the best example to this for me with my kids. She would say to me, oh my gosh, we're going to miss you so much at soup night. I mean, they had a million traditions at Christmas, at Mother's Day. But she said to me one time, I've learned how to be really sad about the people who are not here and really happy about the people who are here. And I was like, well, that's being very present to your emotions. And this is a woman who passed away.
So she did that naturally? That's just the way she was. That's amazing. She was
unbelievable. And she passed away a year ago, which every single one of my kids called her unconditional love in a body. And they flew from all over the country to be at this funeral and talked about her because she always made them feel like she was glad that they were around and they were very glad that she was around. Very invitational without being demanding. I mean, this woman was like the embodiment of all the stuff I'm trying to do. I'm like, everyone's like, where'd you learn this? I'm like, the strangest place, my mother-in-law.
My mother-in-law. Yeah, that is the strangest place, but that's very cool. And it sounds like she was just a light also, you know?
Yeah. So lovely, though, that her grandchildren, though, it didn't matter how old she was, that she lived in, 6 hours away. If she was anywhere around that they could be around, they wanted to be around her. And you're
It's
like,
amazing.
wow, wow. So
And
yeah,
sounds like you did too.
oh my gosh, I miss her every day. And I mean, I was in a book called "So God Made a Grandmother" in called like put out by a group called Her View from Home, and I wrote about her because I was like, this is the person that and the person I'm striving to be, because it is that very, very healthy relationship based actually in roots and wings, if that makes sense. She would never have stopped
Absolutely.
me. She cheered me on every which way, but I knew that I was absolutely unconditionally loved by this person. And you don't even have
Wow.
to be blood related to them. You can anybody can do it. So yeah, it's just so that's the kind of relationship I just want with most people in my life and especially my kids.
Yeah. And so the tools to get to do this work. I mean, your books obviously, but is there any, like, I mean, you are the queen of quotes apparently. I did not know that, but I mean, is there anything that, like, canned, I guess is the right word, that you can say to help people? Cuz like I might have said this, the people who are listening to this, I mean, it resonates to me. My kids aren't going off to college. They've done that. But, and I think it will resonate to everybody listening, but the primary listeners, I think, are moms
Mhm.
of and their daughters for this time. So is there any, like, canned, you know what I mean? Am I being clear?
It's yeah, I know you're saying canned or maybe formulaic. It's hard because I do think it's a long, just like everything in motherhood, right? It's all baby steps, and you're
Right.
taking it's a long, slow approach to this. I
Right.
think the rushing thing um, is a difficult. So if I give like tips and tricks, I mean,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and I would say the biggest thing is if you can remember one thing, I would say is to really speak out. I have, I mean, I would say, come get soul care with me, my spiritual direction. This is everything I do. We have so many ways to do this that are very practical. There are ways to get in touch with with the real you, yourself, but so much of it is acknowledging who you are, where you are, asking very important questions. What do I want? What do I need? Those are things that we have never asked. I mean, if I could say a canned thing, it would be to ask yourself this question every day. What do I want? What do I need today? And you could put it, and you could say, as a mom, if we're doing it in this space, what am I like? What do I want really is like, what am I hoping for? But then, like, what do I need? What do I need? Not from my kids. What do I need to give myself? The other day, when my son texted me, to give you an example, I did need to, I was like, my body is in panic, right? Like that second you wake up to that text, you're like, "Ah!" And it's not
Right.
saying that my amygdala, everything went crazy. And then I was like, what do I need? And I was like, I need to process this actually. And I have a couple hours because he's not going to wake up. And it kind of calmed I was like, everything's not an emergency, calmed it down.
Right.
What do I want? Let's say it out loud. I want him to be okay. I
Right.
want him to text me later. I want to find out what's going on. I want to know that he has a plan. I want. What did I need? I needed to process this. I needed to sit with it. I needed to ask myself, like, what are my fears? Like, what am I really afraid of? I needed to show the text to my husband. I needed to write, obviously I'm a writer. I wrote down, I texted him every once an hour. I didn't need that. Because I found myself being like, wait, I did want him to know that he's not responsible for me. So I was like, whatever you need, dude, like you don't have to talk. Like I was finding myself like clarifying myself in each text
Right.
and like making sure that he didn't feel like he owed me anything. But then I did say what I needed. I do need to know that you've seen these texts.
Right.
That's kind of what I need. I just need to know that you're alive so that I don't just hop on a plane and call the police.
Right. Right.
That was what I needed, like it just is like, okay, what do I want? What do I need? But before I did all that, I needed to sit with myself. But I think those two things of what do you want? What do you need? Asking yourself those two questions. We have not asked ourselves those questions, probably because we're moms and we've asked
Right.
them of everyone else.
Yes, that is so true. And that's what I was just thinking,
Right.
That's
You have to become your own parent. But I would say start there. And if you feel like I need him to answer me, I need him to answer me, I need you to answer me, you have to go a level down. And it's actually, I need him to be okay.
right.
And I want him to be okay. And I need, like those are, I mean, and this is the stuff everyone's like, oh, you're on social media. This is the kind of really deep stuff I deal with very practical tips and suggestions and dealing with our own souls in my weekly newsletter. I just wrote one a couple weeks ago. What if they don't text back? I texted my son something 3 days. I'm like, dude, 3 days. And, like it's one of my most popular ones because that's what's true.
Right.
And I have like very practical, like soul care, because I'm a spiritual soul companion. That's like my wheelhouse. That's what I'm trained in, but also in this very particular space.
So the newsletter, I got to get.
It comes out every Wednesday. It's on Substack. It's called Moms of Bigs. It's not that hard to find. And I don't spam you with anything else. It's just a newsletter that comes out once a week. It has all kinds of great resources. My daughter and I are actually my oldest and I are writing a book called Moms of Bigs, how to have a long-term healthy relationship with your teen and young adult or your big kid ever. And it is the relationship REL. It's the acronym relationship where it will go into all of this kind of, I mean, what we've done is just like a little bit of like a surface, but
Right.
a lot of it I do even in just my Substack and it's free.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, literally, I'm like, okay, we got to end this so I can go read the newsletters. I'm just kidding.
And it's so hard. Social media, nobody knows there's a newsletter. It's like
Right.
social media
Yeah.
algorithm is hard. But then like a lot of moms do use me as their soul companion, as their spiritual director, really talking about how do we do this and how do I do this well? How do I
Right.
do this transition of grief? I mean, that's why people go to usually some kind of like coach or something, or
Right.
I like the word soul companion. There's an Irish
Yeah, I
word.
like that too.
Yeah, just because you just don't want to feel alone. And I am just a
Right.
fellow journeyer. I'm just
Right.
bearing witness to your struggle.
No, but you are saying what is in our hearts and what
Mm.
is in our minds. And you're doing that in a way, like I said earlier, that it's speaking to us. That's again why so many people are
Aw,
listening to you. So
aw.
thank you for that.
Well, I want to draw out in you what's already there that may be being shoved down. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'm crying again. I'm like, well, I care about your soul. I care about all of that. I'm going to tear up, but that's what I really care about. I care about the mom's heart, like, and what she's going through and my own heart. I mean, and that we really get through this life together. We don't
Right.
we don't do this life alone. And it's such a weird thing to be out there on, in this like very weird space on social media. But that's why I love, like, I call the social media is kind of like you're sitting on my porch. Come into the living room and then we can have a chat. And then if you really, really need help or really want someone one-on-one to bear witness to what you're going through, come into my kitchen, you know?
Gotcha.
And I'm going to be one-on-one sitting with you, listening and bearing witness to you. And you're going to figure out it yourself. You're going to figure out how to do this yourself.
Wow. Very cool. Thank you
Oh, this
so
is
much.
so fun.
I'm like bawling my eyes out. She's like, this is so fun.
Oh,
It is. I'm just teasing.
No, I know it is. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but uncomfortable is what makes us grow.
Right.
Right.
Agreed. For sure. Well,
So thank God
you
for our kids, right? We're certainly not the same people we were. Thank God.
Yes. Thank God for our kids.
I certainly would not want to be my 25-year-old self.
I know. Crazy, right? How
Yeah.
this evolution, not evolution, but the change,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I'm assuming, can you tell them just Moms of Bigs is your website and Moms of Bigs is your Instagram?
Yeah, Moms of Bigs, Instagram, Facebook, the Substack newsletters, it's Moms, just search there. And then my website is my name, because I have like different things on there, because I offered, there's just different things. It's my name, estherjoygetz.com, but there's a header that says Moms of Bigs, and that has, I have so many resources there and good stuff. My books are there. Yeah. And I will say this, depending on when you air this, if you are a mom who has a kid going away to college in the fall, I have a book called Roots and Wings, the first 50 days after your kid goes to college.
Oh, wow. We need that.
It is there. And it is on Amazon. It is a great Mother's Day gift, a great graduation gift for your friends whose kids are doing this. And I walk you through you read one thing for the first 50 days. And it is, I did a beta test with like 300 or 400 moms via email. And they were like, you have to put this into a book so that it can get out there. And that, I just published it a year ago, and that has been very, very popular. And it is really, talk about tips and tricks, but not tips and tricks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's, and that's why I felt weird trying to, you knew what I meant, but I was like,
but that is a daily mom soul care.
Oh yeah, no, I'm all over that. I'm buying that for everyone I know that is going through this, and I'm going to tell my clients to as well. Thank you for being here so much. Thank you for sharing, and I can't wait to subscribe and help spread the word.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and I love the reason behind what you're doing. I just think it so resonates with me. You just really want these kids to have a place at the table.
That's all I want. That's it. That's why I do it.
So wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see how this progresses. Welcome to Time Out with Trisha. Because can you really give advice if you don't speak about yourself in the third person? I don't think so. This is exactly how I speak to my clients. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Now let's get into it. Okay, so wow. Yeah, I was crying that whole time. I feel like everything she said, she was talking to me. And I know you guys felt the same way too, the moms that are listening. And I love what she said about not putting that on your kids. And this is going to air probably around graduation time. So normally I give rush tips in this Time Out with Trisha, but I'm going to give tips or a tip to moms because I've lived it. And I know what you're going through. Take a breath. Get the book, Roots and Wings. Get it for your friends because this is a time that is uncomfortable for you. And it is a time where you really do need to just make sure that you're feeling it and you know that it's okay not to be okay that day, but you're going to be okay later on. So I'm so grateful for her for giving us just the space to do that. So anyway, happy graduation to your kids and just give yourself the space to feel the feelings. And that's it for Time Out with Trisha. We'll see you on another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. For additional Rush tips, updates, and more, please follow me on Instagram at Rush with Confidence. If you would like to reach out to us or for more information, please email info@madrushpod.com. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry and Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Trisha Addicks.